Willkommen, bienvenue, welcome once again. This is another wondrous live stream, and this one's called IPSA Kind of Magic. It celebrates all things independent personal search agents, of which Hamish is the current chairman of that chamber. Mahesh is a valued consultant who works as Kedai Property Searches, and we talk about all topics to do with promotion within and making sure that your searches are done aptly and all the things that can affect that process. Today's topic is the devil is in the detail, while report formatting works. And of course, to start us off, Hamish McClay.
And it seems an obvious subject in many, many respects, but those not familiar would probably find it not such a subject we discuss very often. When we bear in mind there are 300 different councils operating, and that's been reduced quite significantly, certainly by 20% so far, and indications are that it will reduce even more. However, each of those councils have a different way of reporting. And fortunately, things have improved in the last 20 years because when we first started working, the way we would get information back from councils was just so unbelievable. Some, they would just photocopy things and actually send it back. And they would do exactly the same with the searches they sent back to their clients. These are the searches from the council to the clients. And we actually started working together within our particular organisation, the Association of Independent Personal Search Agents. So you can imagine, you bring in the number of people that we actually sort of have, we're all carrying out searches independently from these different sort of councils, put together number. There could be, if you multiply the whole lot out, there could be so many different ways that this information could come together. Now, what do you want as a reporting solicitor when you're actually sort of compiling the details, looking at the risk, trying to find out the risk for anyone that's buying into a property? If you're getting every single search back, which is different layout, different setup, land charges here, different mix-up in way in which what we call the Con 29 process, if all of these things are mixed up all over the place and it's inconsistent, half the battle is trying to figure out where they are for starters. Then when you find out the reports, the style is different, it changes. However, what we've been able to do within our organization is find, as a collective, we can all report back the same way. We can actually all go back through the same portal, should we wish to. But even if we don't go back through the same portal, we make sure we get the information set out in a way that everybody understands. And from that particular perspective, that's what does make a difference. And of course, Mahesh himself, having worked within the land charges department and having worked with a number within Wales, he must have seen some incredible varieties as well. Now, fortunately, I think they're improving. I don't know how well they're improving generally throughout, because we've certainly we still do have challenges with the council. We still have challenges with the format that Land Registry are using. It's great that we can get the information earlier than we could do. Don't get me wrong about Land Registry. It's great that we can get that information. It still needs to be sorted. However, it's very different to the way in which we are used to reporting that information. So it's great to refine it and then format it the way that, if you like, our clients can see it on a consistent basis. So it doesn't matter where the heck it comes from. It can be consistently formatted the same way.
Mahesh, welcome. Why is formatting and preparation of the content so important?
I think it's got to be just something that makes it easier to read for everyone, to be fair. I mean, you don't want to be traipsing through a document which is generally, I know with most of the reports that I've seen, they range for between 15 and 20 pages. You don't want to be going backwards and forwards, looking for certain things on the report. land charges with certain reports or certain councils. They put it at the back, some put it at the front, and then you're looking for bits of information as highways or planning or anything like that. You want it all in a consistent line. So sort of when you look at the report, you got the address on the front. You know which council it's coming from. You know who's done the report. So that's all on page one. You know the address of the property, and then let's say page 2 will just tell you what land charges there are or how many registrations there are on that document. Page 3 will tell you the land charges, the planning, the building control, and then you've got all the other information then to follow. You're not having to flick backwards and forwards. I mean, most of the solicitors these days will do everything online. So they'll be looking at all the documents online and then working with PDF viewer or whatever else to actually view the documents. Now, you don't want to be on your mouse or keyboard flicking backwards and forwards through that document trying to find the information that your agent or whoever or the council have put up, and making you think, okay, well, this is annoying now, because at least with certain people, and when they do their reports, I know we've got a tailored report with one of the companies that we work with, and yeah, it's great. It's all color coded. It's all fantastic. It's easy to read, and it just flows. And I've always done my reports very similar. Sort of my reports, I've always had the front page which tells you what the address is, who the solicitor is, what the local authority is. The second page goes into how many registrations there are with the land charges, with the planning and whatever else, and then you follow through, and then you get all your attachments at the end, and you know straight away a quick couple of links on your document, and you can just flick backwards and forwards and make it a lot easier.
Well, it does seem that good formatting makes it easier, and I suspect part of the reason why IPSA are successful in this regard is because they just make sure that you don't get swamped with a morass of information, that you get the information that's actually relevant to you. Would you say that, Hamish?
Yeah. Well, it's so much the case, and you notice it as well with land registry. And I think, as Mahesh says, the problem is looking backwards and forwards, because if somebody says, "Oh, there's 17 land charges," and the challenge as well is the land charges are often linked with planning. So if somebody decided to stuff their land charges as an attachment because they've just photocopied it, there's a chunk of pages at the back end of everything, there's no direct link with where you are. But if you looked at the land charges and you've looked at the planning, which follows in the next section, if it's because it is all sectionalized, it doesn't actually speak about being sectionalized, and therefore it can be formatted in such a way. And I'm sure at some stage that there will be a way of making sure the software links it up. However, it's such a challenge to do it, and this is one of the difficulties that people can actually sort of have. Now, if we are compiling searches and we are passing them on to the solicitors, I dread to think what some of the solicitors are inheriting with some of the information that's actually coming back to them, because many people who are actually carrying out and putting these searches together are just either cutting and pasting items, or worse still, photocopying and just attaching that photocopy within the documentation. Whereas now it's so much easier. We've spoken about this before, that it seems absolutely absurd to have a form that you can fill in, having to print it off, fill in the details, and then actually photocopy that to actually sort of put it back into a document again. And that's wasting everybody's particular sort of time. And if you got it in a particular way, because the solicitor has to compile certain aspects of what they're doing, they're reporting, and put it in. And if they can't copy and paste readily themselves, it just makes everything take that much longer. And therefore, what we try and do, first of all, we try and communicate with each other in a pre-formatted way, so we all know what order they're actually sort of coming in. And then alongside of that, we've taken out detail that isn't important. We've refined the information, because there was a time when you could rely on absolutely everything that came through, but land charges officers don't have time to do that any longer. So certain items will get carried over, and carried over. And you think about this, if you've got a development which is 2,500 houses on it, you don't need all of the detail about those 2,500 houses to support that single road that you're in that happens to have 10 houses. You don't need all that information. It's no longer relevant to your particular property. But if it's just carried over and carried over and carried over, so that's the refining taking place, as well as putting in the appropriate sort of place as well. So it will link up. And as I said, we take the time to save other people time and to make it all that much more readable.
Wow. That's all right. So, Mahesh, do you find that over the years you've seen this change? And nowadays, is it easier to put the information into a way that makes it sensible for the home buyer or for the solicitor to work with?
I think it is. I mean, a great example is probably sort of when I first started in local land charges in Cardiff. And I mean, would you believe that sort of obviously some of the registrations, as Hamish quite clearly said, sort of we used to photocopy the entries off a card index, staple it to a pre-printed page, and then put that into the search report. And then it'd be a case of all the other departments, the information you get from there, you'd print that off and you'd add that into your search report as well. And obviously this lister would have a mound of paper, 30, 40 pages long, and having to flick through reports and things. It has made it easier with with computers and whatever else, and obviously all the apps and things you can get with it. But until the local authorities sit down and say, well, okay, well, what's the best way for the clients to view this information? In terms for a local authority, their main issue is get the information and get it out, because the solicitors are generally chasing the local authorities and saying, well, where's our search report? You've had it for 2 to 3 weeks, and we haven't got time to wait for all that information to come through. So the councils are obviously thinking, well, let's just put it into the document, and regardless of where it goes, we'll just chuck it out and let somebody else sort it out. I think there are apps now available, or there are certainly companies out there now who are creating systems where you can filter that information through. I know you can do it for the title plans or the title documents that you get. And I know that there is one company out there who is working on filtering out all the relevant information that you get in a local search, and, for example, the Con 29 report and whatever else. But it's a long time coming, to be fair. I mean, sort of, we've had computers and systems in place for many years, but it's only now that with the advent of information that people are actually getting into it and sort of obviously realizing that this is what people need. And obviously when buying the house, you want that clear information there in front of you. You don't want to be looking through mounds of gobbledygook that people don't even understand half the time.
It does appear that the right information is often more important than all the information.
Yeah.
Would you say, Hamish?
Oh, absolutely. The right information in the right place. We did have the change in the documentation, if you like, the layout, the formatting of what we call the Con 29 document, which is that document containing all sorts of information pertaining to the property, alongside what we call the local land charges. And both of those were actually sort of changed in, as I said, sort of 2016. Unfortunately, they weren't brought fully up. Although we'd had computers at that stage, they weren't brought out in a way that lent themselves very easily to be worked on a computer. And still, the Law Society would be liking us to use all sorts of pre-formatted material, which don't exactly link up very, very easily. But I think what's happened, and Mahesh allayed to this particular aspect of it, there are so many software companies out. This is one of the challenges when a good idea comes out. You've got everybody and their mother's son trying to, oh, this is fantastic. This is fantastic. So you've got 300 councils and 270 different pieces of software that can be used to actually do something with this particular council information. And so this is a challenge, of course, trying to what is the best way of actually sort of doing it. And so often as well, you would find this is one of the great aspects of our organization is the fact that we have people with Mahesh's background, and we know there's 4 or 5 people who come from a land charges background themselves who understand and have actually sort of worked in it, and know an awful lot about what is pulled together, what is actually important, and have worked with solicitors down the line to see what it is, because we've retained our solicitor clients and we know the way that they like to perceive and like to see things. So you can format it in such a way that they like it. This is where that relationship sort of comes in as well. So there's several different aspects about the whole way in which we go about it. And it's that the formatting. And as we said, it's the detail of the formatting so much, not the detail of the content, although that is important, as we've said before. You can get a bit too much detail. You want the appropriate detail.
It's appropriate detail is the watchword here, I think, and I would say to anyone watching, appropriate is more important than volume. Hamish, would you take us home, please?
Well, I think we more or less sort of pulled it together, and I think once again the value of sort of bringing in somebody with Mahesh's experience, and this is one of the strange things as well. England and Wales separated and decided they would do things a slightly different way in terms of certain aspects of the whole conveyancing sort of process.
Right.
I think what has been happening, which is helping us out, because enough of us are working together to create this level of consistency, there isn't quite the challenge that there actually used to be. In the way in which but there's still that disparity. Why there needs to be, I don't know. There are certain things which are better. It's better handled by a Welsh Parliament and an English Parliament and a Scottish Parliament. But there are certain things which are common. Why the heck can't we commonize the formatting as well as everything sort of else? But we're still stuck with the. At least it's just England and Wales are stuck with the old LLC1 and the old Con 29. I don't know what they do in Scotland and Ireland. We haven't found out yet, but we will be finding out soon, I'm sure. No, it is good. And I think that's why I respect the people that we work with within our organisation that can keep the continuity up and to keep that information flowing and make it so much easier for the solicitors and for the buyers and the sellers who get involved with all of this.
Its information flow absolutely trumps everything else in this regard. Thank you once again, Mahesh Karai of Karai Property Services, and of course Hamish McClay of Search Conveyance. And will you watching? If you want to become a member of IPSA, I would absolutely recommend contacting Hamish or Heather and starting the process. If you are looking to work with an organization such as IPSA so that you get the best people on the job rather than just the centralized people on the job, then please, I ask go ahead. And to all of you watching, keep your feet on the ground, keep reaching for the stars, and look after mental health. Until next week, goodbye.